My Microsoft is changing.
Okay, it's on. Yeah.
Okay, great. Jai Bhim, good morning, good afternoon, and lecture series hosted by Boston Study Group and co-sponsored by Global NRIs Forum. For those of who you are attending Ambedkar lecture series for the first time, I would like to give a brief introduction about Boston Study Group. We are a not-for-profit Ambedkarite organization in the USA working in New England states of America. Boston Study Group founded 8 years back to spread awareness about the caste-based discrimination in India, its impact on the lives of millions of people, and the dehumanizing life so-called unables or untouchables or Dalits have to endure. BSG organizing studies of Baba Sahib literature, sponsor conferences on these issues, providing financial support to deserving students from India to attend such conferences, providing humanitarian and financial help in situations like COVID to organizations who are working at the ground level in India. Of discrimination 350 million people from oppressed and marginalized communities face in India. Notable events are seminars with Black Lives Matter, panels in Harvard India conferences in Brandeis. We were one of the sponsors of the Dalit Film Festival held in New York, first of its kind. We reach out to universities, South Asian youth organization to explain the menacing and dehumanizing caste system. The main feature of BHG is the Ambedkar lecture series, which we started in 2016 at Harvard University, and we are marching towards our 100th episode in next few months. BHG started biannual magazine, The Awaken, to provide platforms from Bausan communities to express their views, show their literature, artistic skills. We have already published 4 volumes, and next volume will be coming up in fall 2023. Please visit our website, www.bostonstudygroup.org, to know more about us, or read The Awaken, or visit our channels on YouTube to watch speeches from our Ambedkarite lecture series. Adivasis is the collective name used for the many indigenous people of India. Adi means of earliest time or from the beginning, and Vasi meaning the inhabitant or residents. These people were pushed into the hill areas after the invasion of the Indo-Aryan tribes 3,000 years ago. Officially, Adivasis are termed scheduled tribes. Adivasis are not a homogeneous group. There are over 200 distinct people speaking more than 100 languages and varying greatly in ethnicity and culture. However, there are similarities in their way of life and generally perceived position within the Indian society. According to the official census held in 2011, Adivasis constitute 8.6% of the nation's total population. That is around 100. Represent much higher proportion of India's population. Adivasis live throughout India, but are primarily based in the mountain and hill areas away from the fertile plain. Adivasis continue to face prejudice and often violence from the mainstream Indian society. They are at the lowest point of almost every socio-economic indicator. The majority of the population regards them as primitive, and the government programs aim at integrating them with the majority society, rather than allowing them to maintain their distinctive way of life. While the larger tribal groups and languages will survive as a result of numbers, the destructions of their economic base and environmental poses grave threats to those who are still able to follow their traditional way of life, and may result in the cultural extinction of many of the smaller Adivasi peoples. To know more about political cultural movements in Adivasis in India, we have with us Professor Bhukya with us. I will introduce Professor Bhukya. He is currently a Fulbright-Nehru academic and professional excellence fellow for 2023 at the Department of South Asian Studies. He holds professorship in history at the University of Hyderabad, India from 2014. Before this, he taught history at the English and Foreign Language University, Hyderabad for 5 years as associate professor, and at the Osmania University, Hyderabad, for 13 years as assistant professor and associate professor. He was a British Academy visiting fellow at the School of Orient and African Studies, the University of London. He was awarded Ford Foundation International Fellowship for his doctoral studies from 2003 to 2006 at the University of Warwick, UK. Dr. Bhukya is an active historian from India and specialized in modern Indian history from undergraduate to master level. In the process, developing a strong interest in the history of subaltern and marginalized groups whose history is largely neglected in mainstream history. His research interests are histories of subaltern community, the effect of power, knowledge, governmentality, and dominance and subordination, the state and nationalism, and the identity politics in the 19th and the 20th century. He's looking at the question of development concerning the Adivasis, indigenous of India. The pertinent question Bhukya asks is, can there be development without political rights? He is also associated with indigenous people's human rights and political movements in India. He has written so many articles and the books are published. There are so many, so I don't want to speak about that. They are already on your screen. So with this brief introduction, I'm inviting Professor Bhangya for his speech. Professor, stage is yours, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Sanjay. At the outset, I thank Boston Study Group and NRI, Global NRI Forum for organizing this talk. Yeah, Sanjay, I must tell you, Adivasis have been neglected in almost all aspects. Though, you have about 705 constitutionally recognized communities and about 100 millions of population, which constitutes almost 10% of India's population. But unfortunately, from the very beginning of civilization, they have been marginalized and ignored in all contemporary development and political issues and everywhere. And nobody bothers about them. First thing is every day, there are many women being raped and many were killed on the name of anti-national, Naxalite and this and that. But nobody pays any attention to these kinds of brutality by these state. And so, what I'll do is, I think I'll speak for about 45 minutes or so, and then we'll open up for a discussion. So what I'll be doing is I'll give you the whole history of states intervention, modern states intervention from the colonial period. In the matter of Adivasis and how state was responding to Adivasi question, and then also focus on the post-colonial state and then Adivasi's response, the failure of this government initiatives and Adivasi's recent responses to the whole thing. So basically, it's about Adivasi question. Which is as old as our civilization. I think first I should tell you who are these Adivasis. So when we imagine Adivasis, what comes to our mind is half-naked people, always drinking, always dancing. This is the kind of popular imagination one gets, when we think of this, community. As Sanjay was telling, India was inhabited by indigenous communities before coming of the Aryans to this land. So after the Aryans shifted or moved from Saptasindh region to Gangetic Valley, Gangetic Valley becomes mainland India, and the whole other areas becomes a kind of peripheries of mainland India. So as Gangetic Valley politics and culture was expanding towards south and hills, certain communities actually moved to forest areas. So some communities were forcefully subjugated, which you can say the present Dalit Bahujan communities by the Aryan groups, and some communities which could not adjust with the normative system imposed by the Aryan group, run away to forest areas. So unfortunately, these parallel existence of the communities were seen in terms of civilizational segregation or civilizational ladder, that some are advanced and civilized, and some are uncivilized. It's not like that. So Adivasi communities choose to live in certain ways so as to avoid the Aryan and Brahmanical culture that was coming very forcefully towards forest and hill areas. So it began from the very advent of the Aryan, and then it continued. So throughout the history, I actually discussed this whole phenomena in my book, The Roots of the Periphery. So Mughals, Guptas, Sultanates, and Mughals and British basically did the same thing, and as agriculture was expanding towards the forest, these people were moving further deep into forest. So the tribal way of life, maintaining this wildness, all these were actually kind of strategies adapted by the Adivasi communities to keep the state expansion and Brahmanical cultural expansion at the bay. Okay, and one has to actually see this whole phenomena in this way. And of course, British rule was watershed in many respects in Indian history. In the pre-colonial India, there was some kind of sovereignty and autonomy for this smaller groups. I must tell you, there were actually very powerful 4 kingdoms in central India in during the medieval period. And they were conquered later by the Marathas, and then these areas actually transferred to from Marathas to British. So when British actually conquered these areas after the last Maratha war, they felt like they conquered India. But as the army was moving towards Narmada Valley, they actually welcomed by very ferocious revolts by the Adivasi chiefs, and then they realized that India is still unconquered. Okay. And there was, of course, a lot of tension between the group and British actually raised separate corps to suppress Adivasi communities, just like we have now Salam Judus. So that kind of mechanism actually evolved in the early 19th century itself, okay, when they raised Bhil Corps, Gone Corps to suppress these communities. And there was an attempt to separate these areas and put under a special officer administration. And this was seen as a kind of, Adivasi question was seen as a kind of question of governance, a question of land order, and later on, in the post-colonial period, as a question of national integration. Okay. So my argument is that Adivasi question was or is never seen from the Adivasis perspective. It was always a question of governance, question of land order, question of national integration. This is the actually major problem with our state's position and the question of Adivasis. So the colonial state actually was suspicious of this region initially, and was not willing to govern these areas fully. That's why they put these areas under special officers called agents. That's why we call these areas agencies popularly. And but very soon they realize this the value of forests and mines lying in this area, and started controlling this area completely. And that is where they encouraged actually these non-Adivasis into these areas to occupy forest land and cultivate them, bring them into cultivable land. Of course, that is a long history. I don't want to actually discuss all this here. But what I want to actually discuss with you is the ways the colonial state and post-colonial state approached to Adivasi question. Adivasi question actually becomes very important to some extent from the say 1920s, and particularly from the Roundtable Conference. So 30s actually was a very significant period where or when these subaltern communities and various other minority communities started organizing themselves in a bigger way and representing their demand to the colonial state. So this roundtable conference actually open up a kind of you can say Pandora box for various political clients. And unfortunately, there is this notion, anthropological understanding that these communities are innocent, childlike, so we should handle them with care. So by saying this, they were actually denying political rights to these communities. If you see, the 1935 Act in a way was kind of as I told you, watershed or landmark in many respects, where many communities from downtrodden got some political rights and representation in the legislatives and all that. But religious minorities and scheduled castes and including women got some political representation with the introduction of this act, but it was only the Adivasis who were left out. On the ground that these communities are not fit for modern politics. That was the kind of accusation. And then the final round of constitutional reforms, you can say to some extent, provided the another occasion to communities to make their claims. So this, it's a Simon Commission, Cabinet Mission, and various other developments that were happening during the Second World War actually created a kind of stage for the communities to make their claims in a bigger way. So Adivasi question, was not taken very seriously, even Simon Commission as well. Simon Commission, of course, holding the same colonial anthropological position that these communities are not fit to modern politics, and only the upper caste, the caste Hindus were not given kind of self role. Okay, that was the kind of position. So and as a part of this, the 1935 Acts, the Adivasi areas were called scheduled areas, and they were completely excluded from the general administration. And this was also, there was a big halla gulla by the Congress leaders. The Congress leaders were actually not in favor of exclusion of the Adivasi areas from the general administration. Their position was like, this is going to be another division or another threat to Indian national integration. And actually, Indian National Congress, not Congress, but they, Congress of follower, set up a all India scheduled exclusion, anti-all India scheduled area exclusion forum, which was actually acting kind of Congress affiliated association. And this actually was making a lot of noise, outside the legislative assemblies, and also inside the assemblies. Actually, Bihar Assembly passed a resolution that saying that the scheduled area exclusion aspects should be revoked from the 1935 Act. So to some extent, after 35 Act and from 30s, there was this group. So you can say administrative anthropologists group. Who are largely influenced by Bentham totalitarian values, and they were very concerned to the Adivasi question to some extent, and they were the one who were actually lobbying with the British government in getting these kinds of provisions, this exclusion of the Adivasi areas from general administration was actually this group's effort. So, but so there is a problem with this kind of understanding as well. I'll come to that. Particularly Elvin was the main champion of this school. So for them, say this. Elvin was a missionary, and then he himself converted into kind of anthropologist, not professional anthropologist, but a kind of anthropologist. He lived with Gonds in central India. He marries a Gond woman, and then he internalized all Adivasi values and all that. So he was later almost became a kind of big figure on Adivasi issues. And Nehru government, or Nehru and his government was completely relying on him to deal with the Adivasi questions, particularly Northeast question and also South Indian, Central Indian question. And then you have the another guy who is Congress Gandhian social activist called Thakkar Baba. Thakkar Baba started working with the Bhils in 1920s, and then he started a association called Bhil Seva Samaj. Then he expanded this association to whole India on the banner of Adimajati Seva Samaj. Okay, and then he also becomes another champion of the Adivasi cause. This Elvin and Thakkar Baba both were actually friends in the beginning, but later on there was some rift between them on the Adivasi question. Elvin represent the isolationist group in the sense who wants to keep this Adivasis away from the non-Adivasi exploitation and all that. I mean, so by creating separate zones for them. And Thakkar Baba is a nationalist who wants Adivasis actually restrictions. Okay, these are two very striking positions that were emerging at the time of independence or decolonization, if you don't want to call it. So and then of course this tension continues between them, and somehow Congress was also not taking any interest in the Adivasi question. Okay, there is no any evidence where Adivasi, Congress party takes a separate, any special interest in the Adivasi question. The only thing they have done was organizing a forest satyagrahs in the 1930s as a part of this that is satyagraha. That was only a kind of attempt to bring the Adivasis into Congress. Their position is also very kind of a problem in any respect that when they take up only the grazing taxes and another thing, not the Adivasi forest rights. See, problem is like Adivasi's question more is like political, and they are questioning the state. So Congress is actually very aware and clever in this sense that this question would create another rift like Muslim question or Dalit question. So they were actually very carefully handling Adivasi question. I mean, so they were not actually taking any interest in this and avoiding it. And then it was from late 30s, Adivasis started organizing themselves, particularly in Central India, on modern lines. I mean, so, there was this person, Jaipal Singh Munda, you have heard his name. Jaipal Singh Munda was Oxford returned graduate. He was from Ranchi area, born in family. He emerged as a powerful a leader of the Adivasi communities in this period. He was almost not contemporary of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and very closely working with Ambedkar as well. So before him, there were many small organization groups, working in this area. So after his intervention, all these groups came on one platform and could rise a strong collective voice. So and then of course, there was after Second World War 36, there was a proposal constitution assembly, and then somehow he managed to enter. So and there the question of Adivasis become a central issue. There was a lot of debate on this in the constitutional assembly. So and you all know, the kinds of things were happening in the constitutional assembly. Indian National Congress to some extent yeah, please, can you mute?
Can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah.
We have question and answer session at the end. If you have any questions, you can ask at the end.
Yeah. So to some extent, Congress reconciled their position that we should allow Adivasis to have political representation and all that, and also the reservation of the areas. So these things were considered, and two committees were actually set up to look into the areas. One was for Northeast India, and the other was for Central India or mainland India. The mainland India committee was headed by again Thakkar Bapa, whereas the Northeast Indian committee was headed by Gopinath, but who was also Prime Minister of Assam province. So so both the reports actually says almost a colonial position on Adivasis. So these people are poor and uncivilized, and they are not fit for modern politics. They were not actually in favor of the exclusion of Adivasi areas. Actually, many areas which were included as scheduled areas in the 1930s excluded by this committee. Okay. So, and particularly Thakkar Baba was completely against this kind of proposal. But because of this situation, created by the Adivasis, particularly the northeastern groups who were demanding for secession of their territories, created a kind of condition for this thing. So, then when these reports were submitted, so they were just accepted without any discussion in the assembly, in the committee. Discussion was taken place only when this draft constitution came to and yeah. And there was actually very interesting debate in the Constitutional Assembly, which was discussed thoroughly for 2 days. Particularly, the debate was between Jaipal Singh Munda and Thakkar Baba, Brajeshwar Prasad, and Biswadas, and K. Munshi. Mostly, these two, were from Bihar. the Bihar Congress group was actually, in the forefront in opposing, the Adivasi question, because Jharkhand was with Bihar that time. So they were seeing the exclusion or giving autonomy to this communities as a kind of threat to their political career. So Bihar group was from the beginning actually opposing this, and they were, whenever Jaipal Singh Munda rise up and take up Adivasi question, they used to make mockery at him, and some even they were attacking him on personal thing. So in one of the response, he even said that I am very sorry to disappoint him. I mean, so this was a kind of response to K.M. Munshi. He said, does Jaipal Singh ever wear Adivasi clothes, or had he had Adivasi life, because he is a very elitist, this and that kind of argument. So I mean, in response to K.M. Munshi's comment, he said, I am very sorry to disappoint him that in supporting the fifth schedule, I did not dress in my bows and arrows, the line cloths, feather, earrings, my drums, and my flute. So, I mean, of course, Ambedkar many a time come to his risk and let the things to move on. But the way, I mean, the bill, I mean, Adivasi aspects were discussed and first were really very very problematic. So actually, Jaipal Singh was proposing two very important, so 5 things, but 2 are very important things in the present context. One was applying the scheduled tribe provisions to all tribes, irrespective of their geographical location. That was the one thing. The other thing was making the tribal advisory council as a decision-making body. As of now, it is just only an advisory body. It's there in almost in all these states. Okay. So, but the Constituent Assembly did not approve this resolution, and ultimately, I mean, the provisions were not passed without any rights to the Adivasis. So, at any level, I mean, so you don't have any concrete rights, decision-making rights to the Adivasis in the constitutions. That is a very serious problem with the Adivasi policies of the post-independent India, and particularly, I mean, so after independence also, if you, I mean, so the national integration was the major issue. Okay, so as I just told you, I mean, so the northeastern groups and also Central Indian groups were demanding for a separate state. Jaipal Singh Munda actually even talked about Adivasi republics. I mean, a republic in their own territories. I mean, so within the Indian federal system. But those things were also not taken by the constitution maker. And yeah, I mean, so of course, Nehru, I mean, was talking about a middle path in the sense not assimilation, complete assimilation or isolation, but we would take a kind of integrationist approach. I mean, bringing the Adivasis into the nation making in a very gradual manner. but the practical part of this position was a ruthless assimilation of these communities into a larger society. And we are now seeing the results. I mean, how badly these are now affecting the Adivasi communities. And then of course he proposes Panchashila, very dubious kind of program for Adivasis to be integrated in this and all that. So you must have seen Adivasi. I mean, Nehru always dancing with Adivasi women and all that. So I mean, in the beginning, I mean, first decade, even in the second decade of the independence, Indian state was preoccupied with national integration question. I mean, there was issues with border countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and of course China. So it was actually trying to assert itself. I mean, and did not pay any much attention to people's issues. So when it comes to the Adivasis, they worked out some programs called community development kind of programs, but they were not actually implemented in a true sense. So they were actually remained to paper, on papers. So that, and then I mean, so from again late 60s, there was I mean, so across the country, there were a series of peasant revolts, Adivasi revolts, and it actually opened the eyes of the state, and state started coming with various schemes. That is how this ITDAs and various MADA and other development initiatives were initiated by the central and state government. But these programs were also failed miserably and did not bring any tangible change in Adivasi's life. That is my position. And the one, I mean, important thing happened to Adivasis was like this Forest Rights Act of 2006. I mean, it's a really very important act, but unfortunately, it is not implemented anywhere. And of course, the PESA Act is also, I mean, in Panchayat Raj Extension Act, it's also a very good act, but this act is also more like famous for its breach rather than its implementation. It did not actually help Adivasis to protect themselves. And I mean, it's like many a time, I mean, so what's happening is like there are so many protections in the Constitution, and there are many acts and regulations designed to actually protect Adivasi cause, but they don't see any implementation. Okay. So, I mean, so what's happening is like Adivasis, I mean, so there are provisions, but Adivasis don't have rights to actually implement those acts and protection provisions. That's the major curse of the problem. That's what I see. That's why these days I'm actually working on the Adivasi question. And rising like without political right, can there be a development? So I mean, so when you don't have a political right, what is the meaning of development itself, or no? So my argument is political rights, I mean, so should be included in the development itself, so that the community, I mean, communities would develop on their own way. So that's not actually happening. So recently I've been to Jharkhand, and there I actually observed a very interesting development where the Adivasis actually combining their political, cultural, religious question and forcing a unified struggle against the state and larger society. This is called Patalgadi movement. Patalgadi means basically these are a very kind of huge stone plaques on which actually means they these stones were actually used to mark a deceased person of that particular family, but now they are using this to express their demands or their statements against the state. They are actually painted green in green, and a lot of constitutional provisions and various acts which were passed to protect the Adivasi cause and all that. So Supreme Court judgments are also written on these stones, and they are erected in the entrance of the village. So there is this politico-cultural movement coming in very, very forcefully in this areas. Of course, the state is after them, suppressing them. In one place there was some gathering of about 10,000, and the police actually came and just started firing at them without any caution, and some 4 or 5 Adivasis were died on the spot itself, and many were injured. So state is actually very, very hostile against any assertion by the Adivasis. And one great thing with this movement I observed is that it's a very much independent, organized by the Adivasis themselves. Even Maoists are not actually behind this, and they are not interfering in this autonomous movement. But the state is actually literally suppressing them very, very brutally. So so this movement started in 17, and then now it spread to almost 4 or 5 districts of Jharkhand, and it's still going on. Yeah. So as I told you, I think I should stop here. So so my position is like without political rights can there be development? That's my argument. So and I'll try to explain the whole long trajectory of Adivasi development, start from the colonial state. So I'll stop here and invite your responses, questions, and clarification.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Bhangya. So it is very fascinating history to know about Adivasi and Adivasi movement, what the political turmoils they have gone through. And many of these historic facts were not aware to us. So thanks for sharing that information. And that's where the academician coming on the Ambedkar lecture series basically enrich our knowledge. So thank you very much for sharing that. We will open for the question and answer session. But before that, I just wanted to ask one question, and it is related to the contemporary politics. So I always try to introspect, means in my community, there were a lot of the subcaste of the scheduled caste or anything, means they were living in the same area. Even there were the Gond and Gawari also living in my area. And I always think why I mean, at that time I was very young, but my father or any other could not reach out to those communities or community leader. Why we are not able to coordinate anything with these communities? It is like a, if it is from the Buddhist community, it is limited to them, and there was no basically coalitions or intermingling of those communities. And more, I think that the reason may be every body from that particular caste were trying to establish themselves. They were at the very beginning stage of getting benefits of whatever the policies Baba Sahib has implemented, affirmative policies and all this. So everybody was in that primitive stage, and they were trying to basically work on themselves and their own community. So, and I believe that may be the reason why the RSS is able to get inroads into this Adivasi people. And that's why Adivasi RSS has very strong presence in the Adivasi area. And now they are more like going towards the Hindu, means getting into the fold of Hinduism, correct? Whereas they are indigenous people, they don't have anything to do with, they don't share any deities and all this, but now they are all for the Ram and the Hanuman and all this. So I just want to know how we can now at this stage, how we can basically interact with the Adivasi community, what we can do for them to understand that we are the same, and it is better we coordinate our efforts together for the betterment of everyone from our Bahujan community.
Yeah. Sanjay ji, this is really very interesting and very big question. Actually, you really need another lecture on this. In the sense, see, let me tell you this. I mean, from the beginning of the civilization, we have three ecological zones. One is in Indian context, caste society, peasant society, and then forest society, and then there is another nomadic society. Okay, so the other two, forest and peasants, were in a way fixed to their own territories, but nomadic groups were moving between the two. Okay, and there was a lot of sharing. It's not that there is no sharing between these communities. A lot of forest thing was coming in the caste society. It means a plain, and from plain a lot of things were going in the forest. And tribe becoming caste was a very very natural and very common phenomena in the pre-British period. Means you can see, I can tell you many communities like Rajput communities, they all tribal communities, but they became caste. There are many communities around Nagpur which actually became a caste-like groups. Originally, they were tribes. So even in Andhra region, I can tell you certain caste groups becomes tribe-like groups, like Konda Reddis, Konda Kapus. There are certain groups. Okay, so this was a very common phenomena. So the point I like, there was no sharing, there is no connection. Okay, the other thing is like Adivasi question is more related with the state. I mean, so that's where, in a way, means Dalit question and Adivasi question slightly differs, in the sense Ambedkar saw state, a strong state can actually liberate. I mean, so the modern values can liberate the Dalits and all that. Okay, but for Adivasis, state is the biggest enemy. Okay, as a state expanding in their areas, they are losing everything. Their resources, their autonomy, their self-rule, they are losing everything. So Adivasis fight is slightly different. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is Adivasi's question is very much centered. It's a territorial question and very much centered around the village. I mean, they don't think much beyond the village. So when they talk about self-rule, self-determinism, or no, Adivasi Republic, whatever it is within the village. Okay, they want rights, collective rights over their resources, over their land. Okay, with lying around their village. So village or their hamlet is very central for their thinking and imagination of everything. Okay, this is another thing. The other thing is this this area. I mean, so how it gone into BJP's fold. I mean, it's also sometimes one wonder. I mean, the whole central India at one point was under ultra Maoist influence, and suddenly transforms into a sovereignized kind of corridor. So this transformation from red carpet to saffron carpet is really shocking to many of us. And there are some studies, anthropological studies on this aspect, and these studies says that it's the Maoist politics actually created ground for the right-wing groups, because the Maoists were discouraging their religious practices. Okay, and basically Adivasi societies are conservative societies. Okay, so and they were preaching religion is opium, this and that and all. Okay, and so they were trying to separate them from their long established culture, okay, and tradition. Okay, that was a very disastrous thing in the left movement. So even Marx said the immediate social identities are very important for subalterns, new consciousness and organization and everything. But unfortunately, our Indian communists don't take it seriously. So when they left this cultural religious question to the right wing. Okay, so now right wing is coming and capitalizing on this. So then Adivasis are very easily connecting to their politics. So this is the thing. I mean, the recent studies came up with. And of course, in Northeast, they're using this Muslim question. Okay, so there is a lot of migration from Bangladesh and other areas, Burma, Rohingyas. So and trying to capitalize on this. But actually, I have visited some of these camps as well. Muslim migrant, very poor. They are doing just coming for migrant labor. Otherwise, also many Bangladeshis, they come in the morning and do some labor work here, and they go back to Bangladesh. Okay, so it's a very common thing. But now BJP raked up this and taking political advantage. But actual exploited, who are it is the Bengalis. If you go and see, it's a whole politics, business, everything is dominated by the Bengalis. Okay, so Bengalis imperialism, it's not small. It's a whole Northeast, Bihar, Orissa. This whole Eastern India is under Bengali imperialism. I am sorry to say this, but this is the fact. Okay, even in the Central India. Okay, what happened is during again BJP don't talk about this. after partition, there were a huge Hindu migration to India. So what Indian government did that time is they settled these Hindu migrants in central Indian forests. So there are settlements in central India, which were actually migrants of Bangladesh, Hindu Bangladeshis. They are now actually became kind of exploiters of the Adivasis. They run shops, they run various other liquor shops and various other trades in this area. So I mean, it's a very complicated thing, but I think largely I tried to answer to your question.
Okay, great. Thanks, Professor. I think, yeah, I know it is a very complex scenario, and definitely we have to work out towards how we can reach out to this very important part of our social movement. So let's say, so we have 5 people who raise their hands, and there is one questions in the chat box. So I will first call someone from who raised the hands. Puriyaji, can you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir. I showed your video to my little one, and he said, "Switch as dad." So for
oh, okay. Sorry,
yeah.
I changed. Okay.
Yeah. For those who are listening, Dr. Professor Bhukya and family visited our house last week, along with the doctor, along with Narayan Swami, professor, all of that. So he just recognized the picture. Anyway, my question is, sir, the history fascinates me. The why I say is this: history is all about calculation, consideration, consideration, cruelty, and then conquer and command. Right? It's all about that. But more importantly for us to bring the relevance to our current generation, this is an Adivasi topic. I heard, or maybe I learned, that Adivasis are soft, hardworking, honest, all of that great quality attributes. How come they became so soft, allowing, others and penetrate their culture? So that's just like a small question, but more importantly, the other one is knowing this history. I know we cannot alter or we cannot reverse the history.
Your voice is breaking.
Okay. The second question, second part of my question is
my side or your side, but your voice is breaking, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we are able to hear him.
Actually, we are able to hear clearly. Yeah.
Puriya, you are okay. I think
okay. Maybe my video, I just paused my video. Sorry, if you can hear me.
No, that's okay. I think Professor side, there may be some issue. I think it's frozen now. So,
hello.
Professor Bhangya, can you just stop your video and just be on the audio for some time? Let's say. He's frozen now. Yeah.
Okay. His video frozen. Okay.
Yeah.
I can type my question, but the second question is, I know we cannot reverse the history, but how can we, do something meaningful to the current generation to bring something, the damage that was done, either through literature or through awareness? What can we do in the current generation to reverse some of those untruthful things, such as, the history is completely written by us.
Yeah, we got the question. I think we got the question. So Professor Bhangya, can you please respond to Puriya's question? You are muted, I think. Professor Bhangya, you are muted yourself. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah.
I was saying there was some problem with my connection and I missed some part of his question, but I got the sense of his question.
Okay.
So I think the question is like how to correct the historical wrongs. The only way is to correct the historical wrong is like we have to rewrite histories. Okay. It is possible. I mean, so we can do that. Only thing is we should encourage our generation to enter into social sciences and humanities. Unfortunately, we mostly because of our background and all look for some livelihood professional courses and all that, but that is fine. But at least those who have until now, they should encourage their children to go for humanities and social sciences. That would actually help in a very bigger way to rewrite our history and literature from our own standpoints. Whatever you have in market is actually dominant and upper caste version of history. So what we say in history is when we say history is whatever is said by a author is history, not what is written in the document. Documents are there, but they are just kind of lying in the dark room. Okay, only when a historian or when a scholar goes and make them speak, they speak. Okay. So we interpret the historical documents. So we need a person with our vision who can interpret them in our version. So we can construct our histories from the very beginning. Okay, there will be some passing references. In Sanskrit literature, but based on that, we can actually do a lot of things. The problem with Indian history is the only written sources you have are no Sanskrit sources, okay, on particularly ancient Indian history. And all of them were not translated by the colonial Orientalist scholars, and they became kind of main source of India. So these are called Indological studies, okay. So when the kind of history you have is based on the kind of sources you have. So the sources itself actually sets the tone for a historical narrative. So that is why what you have today as Indian history is nothing but a Brahmanical history. And now there is a possibility to reverse this, but we need people like, I'm now writing community histories one after another. I have done, I've written a history of the Lambadas, and then I'm also going to go Gons, and now I'm writing some other communities history. So that is how it should be systematically done. There should be a battalion of people who should be engaged in a bigger way. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Considering the number of speakers, number of questions, I'm not taking any follow-up questions. So next is Supriya. Supriya, can you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yeah. I think I'm audible, no?
Yeah. I can hear you, Supriya, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful speech. I completely agree with you. The way you have articulated the movement of Adivasi from the debate of Kuria and Elevin to till the question of their identity, because I have been reading this Adivasi movement and also subaltern perspectives that are present in India. So, I completely agree with your question that creating of history and also discourse. But my question is, do you think really the political identity and political recognition really help to create an identity for the Adivasi? Because why I'm just raising this question, because when you look at from the perspective of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who says that social reform will take over on political and also religious reformation. So, but if you even if you're able to understand and also look into the issues that are happening in present India, that like if you look into that one, it
Yeah,
will really shows that the social reformation is something really important compared to political and also religion one, that which happened in even Adivasi cases.
Supriya, you
Yeah.
have some more? Yeah,
Yeah.
can I respond?
No, so please unmute yourself and we will take your question after.
Yeah, Supriya, you are right. I mean, the cultural movement should follow the political movement. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so that is how it should be. Then only the politics, whatever you are building, will last forever. Okay, if you build politics without cultural movement, it will not stand for long. Okay,
Yes,
that is a general understanding. So, I mean, sir, now if you see Adivasi politics, I mean, so they're actually combining both cultural and political movement together. Okay.
yeah.
There is an assertion for Swadharma in this area. So, Adivasi question, I mean, so when I say Adivasi question, it includes language. So, I mean, so we need to actually build a combined movement, not one singular political movement. And ultimately, I mean, so this would help you, once you build this and assert your political rights, then I mean, so you can actually establish your own autonomy in your area. Okay.
Yeah.
So now the outsiders, particularly multinational companies, are now eyeing on this area in a bigger way because all the minerals and resources are now lying in this area. So in a way, I mean, there is this notion of resource curse. Okay. Having these resources in this area became a kind of a curse to the Adivasi communities. Okay. And I mean, with their this little politics, they are not able to stop this aggressive expansion of corporate economy in their areas. I mean, the minings in their areas. So definitely, Adivasis have to alive with the similar groups movement outside their areas, and this is now increasingly developing. I mean, coming up. So there is a hope. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir, sorry for the
Supriya,
interruption.
we are not taking the follow-up questions considering there are so many people. If we get the opportunity, you can ask the question at the end, please. Sorry for that. So before I move to the other questions, who has raised the hand, and please be concise on the question. Don't spend too much time on your question too. I will ask the questions from the chat box. It is from Dr. Vinita Pandey. She is asking, has presence of Maoism impacted the political rights of Adivasis? And what are your observation about development-induced displacement, especially in Adivasi areas?
I think, I mean, see, problem with the Indian Maoist movement is they are not built centering Adivasi question. Okay, they were built on class-based struggle, and they are just using Adivasi areas as a kind of cover to run their guerrilla warfare. This whole movement, it is again the Adivasi are losers. I mean, both sides. I mean, many Adivasis were killed on the name of sympathizers. Many were killed as guerrilla Maoists. Many were killed as police jawans. So ultimately, what's happening is it is the Adivasis who are losing their life. So I must tell you that Adivasis from this movement gained very least, but lost so much. I mean, so that much I can tell. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. So anyone who is not asking the question, please mute yourself because it is creating disturbance due to the background. So please mute yourself. And I will go to the Professor Satyanath Ji. Satyanath Ji, can you unmute yourself? Yeah, go ahead. Thanks.
Okay. I'm not going to get, follow up or anything. I tried something that I'll just mention these. Whatever you can remember, you can answer. Talked about movement.
Yeah, somebody is making noise.
Yeah, exactly.
Sanjay,
So,
can you ask?
yeah, Satvika Princey, can you please unmute yourself? Mute yourself.
Yeah, check please.
Okay.
Please. Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to do
Yeah,
it here.
Satyanath ji,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Okay.
Satyanath Ji, are you done with the question? Sorry.
No.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, please.
Is Anoka another word for Adivasis, or what Anoka I had not heard before? So please explain that. Then let me continue with my
What is
question.
the word, sir?
Anoka.
You are using Ganoka, correct word? So
The
Ganoka?
word Kanoka or Anoka.
I
Something.
used it? No.
yeah.
I didn't
Throughout
use
your,
it.
no,
Did I
throughout
use
your,
it?
no, Professor, you are using the word Ganoka, correct? Or we are hearing totally different things?
Oh, no, I didn't use Ganoka.
Venkat, can you help in this?
No, he
Yeah.
used to one word like Kanoka, the tribe name or tribe names.
Tribe name. I never heard that word also, but maybe is referring. There is
He
a
used
word
this word
somewhere.
like Kanuka multiple times. Is it the
Oh.
tribe name or?
No, I think I was when a professor was talking about this one, I was
Never
just
heard
Googling what is
No,
that. So
he
I
used
think
multiple times.
yeah. So
So
basically,
Bhangya Bhukya used.
Yes.
yeah. Correct. So I think when I was looking at on internet, it is Adivasi gun and all these. I thought he may be referring to that one instead of the gun. There is a word Ganoka or something like that. So yeah, that is the questions we have. Okay, go ahead. Otherwise, so
Is it Patal Gadi, the one I used?
yeah. You use Patal Gadi, that is one thing, but throughout your session, I think that may be something you are means something,
Yeah.
but we are hearing
So,
it as Ganoka. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all right. So we will go to the next question. I think.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
have more questions if I could. Okay.
Okay, please be short, Satyanath. We have lots of people. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I will try to. Now, this Rohingya people you mentioned, I'm only hearing about Rohingya Muslims. Are they tribal or not? And whether they are Muslims or not, it doesn't matter. But would you call them tribal people? Then let me continue with.
They are basically tribals converted into Islam. Yeah, and unfortunately, they were rooted from their land during the colonial period, and now Burma is throwing them on India. Yeah, nobody is owning them. That's a very, very sad story of the Rohingyas. Nobody wants them. Where they will go? They will go? They are also human beings. Yeah.
Is Bangladesh welcoming them, or they are not?
No, nobody is welcoming either Burma, Bangladesh, or India. They were rooted out from their land during the colonial period by the British.
Okay, you mentioned something about village rule of the tribals. Is that, do they have something like panchayat, or what kind of system prevails in the village for in a sort of to ruling the village. And then you mentioned Pakal Kali movement.
Patalgadi, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, please explain that. And then I wanted to ask
Satyanathji,
just
please
last
start.
one.
You're asking so many
Last-
questions. We may not have time for others to ask the questions.
Yeah.
Last question. I understand Jaipal Singh Munda ji had interacted with Dr. Ambedkar only perhaps after close to the independence time. Before that, did they have much interaction, and what was their relationship, if you could enlighten us?
Okay, this Jaipal Singh interaction with Ambedkar, we don't know, but the moment he came into active politics in 1938, there were interaction between them. We participated in various activities, and particularly in the Constitution Assembly. Ambedkar always supporting him and not taking his position for that's the thing. And coming to this village Sabha in the pre-British India, there was a village Sabha, and there will be a chief, village chief, who look after all the political and religious aspects of the village. So largely village was autonomous, and they had collective rights over their forests, village forests, and other areas. So there is a land right, which is very much sometime based on lineage, or sometime collective rights, sometime individual rights, but there will be some hunting zones. Okay, and there is sacred hills areas where people go and worship their goddesses. And between the village, there were relations. There were also inter-village councils, which actually settles issues between the village. So, so boundaries are very much marked for each village, and village people are very much aware of their boundaries and are acting within them. Yeah, that much I can tell you. But now, there is no any such thing. Even under PESA, there is no village sabha. They say village sabha, but it is not the way. It's supposed to be in the past, or in the traditional way. So it's completely different. So in the traditional way, all the members are now members of the village sabha. Now there are some ward members, 10, 12 people who constitute the village sabha. That's not the traditional way of doing. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Professor. Yeah. So, Professor Satyanathji, if we have the time afterwards, we will definitely call you back. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the Dr. Kashwan. Dr. Kashwan, can you unmute yourself? Yes.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much for organizing this talk. It was such a fascinating and rich talk, and I learned a lot. You mentioned the differences between Adivasi struggles and Dalit struggles. And in that, audiences, please mute yourself. And you mentioned the difference between the Adivasi struggles and Dalit struggles. And in that, you mentioned how Adivasis sort of think about their land, village, and their sort of local community. It would be nice to hear a little more from you about whether that's similar to Gandhi's notion of Gram Swarajya, which has been, as you know, has been critiqued. So how would you sort of, explain that in the context of present struggles, and how that notion might be different from Gandhi's Gram Swaraj?
See, Gandhi's notion of Gram Swaraj is completely different. It's based on Marma Dharma Shastra. I mean, so he argues that all the castes should do their respective jobs and all that. That is, I mean, it's a very bizarre thing. But Adivasi's assertion of the village territory was based on self-determinism. Okay. It's completely different from Gandhian notion of Gram Swarajya. We can't compare that, So here, I mean, in Adivasi's case, there is a history and tradition of self-rule and self-determinism. Basically, it's more political rather than cultural. Okay, so what Gandhi talks about is more cultural kind of thing. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we can take up next question, Sanjay ji.
Yeah, pardon me? Yeah, there is
we can take up next question, yes.
Yeah. So I'm moving to the next question. So there is Jinat for Azmi. Can you, okay, you are already unmuted. So please ask your
Good morning and good evening to everyone. This is Zinat from Usmania, research scholar from Department of Sociology, sir. Well, okay. I have two pertinent questions, sir. One is, we are talking about political representation, Adivasi political representation, right? And now we have two scenarios here in India. One side, now whose voices matter and who can legitimately claim to represent authentic Adivasi interest, right? And second is, we see few Adivasi political legislator in assembly and parliament also. Now here, when the situation comes to raise their voices, they don't do. Why? Why? Because here I feel that somewhere the political representation by Adivasis is the ticket is being given to the elite Adivasis. They, yes, this is the main thing. Now, what is the first thing? It is the upper hand, to get upper hand in politics. The first thing is the Adivasis should uplift themselves culturally and socially, right? Why? Because Adivasis are totally, they are depoliticized or stripped away in political agencies to pursue their own agendas and interests. So something here matter comes here to focus on education, right, sir? We have to stress mostly on education rather than firstly we're talking about political. Why? Because here the language is the most barrier thing to Adivasis. To curb this or to eradicate this hindrance, I would say that inclusion of local culture, this folklore or the history in the curriculum can help the building. It can build the confidence in the tribal children and enhance the relevance of education in their lives. This is my what you said. What have said, sir.
Yeah, thank you. You are right, but the question is like politics decides our fate. So we cannot actually maintain silence on political question. Along with education, we should also raise our political question. And why our tribal leaders are silent when some serious issue comes up is like they work within the party fold. But if you have your independent party, like Ambedkar never contested from any dominant caste political party. Even Jaipal Singh Munda, okay, he won on his own association. Okay, that is how they maintain their autonomy and personality. Once you join in any political party, you have to bind by that political party position. So you can't you can't act independently. You lose all your independence. Okay.
Yes, but this happens.
Yeah. So we can expect from the representatives only when he comes on a alternative politics. So we have to look for alternative politics to come up. then only you can put your questions more,
Yes, yes,
assess your,
definitely.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Okay.
Once they sensitize about politics, then itself they can come into the mainstream politics, right, sir? They should know what is the background of their issues of the Adivasis. This happens once they are educated.
Yeah, yeah. We need conscious leadership, Amma. That's the
Yes, definitely,
solution.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
great. Thank you, Professor, and thank you, Jinathji. I will
Thank
go to the next. There is a question in the chat box from Satyam Talari. How can we support to get the government schemes and entitlements to PVTG tribes?
See, how to get means you have to organize and fight yourself. So means there have been this. Let me. Okay.
So, Professor Bhangya, you are using the same word now, which we have confusion with Ganoka. So,
No, Sanjay, it's a transitory word. Okay, you know what I mean. So it is the way of communication. Okay, it's nothing really with any.
Oh, maybe it's my accent. Okay, I don't know how it's coming.
It's a transitory word.
Yeah. It doesn't have any meaning, but sometimes when we're talking, that what we call occasionally it comes in the in between. Maybe that's a word. Even I also surprised what does it mean. So
okay,
then
it's all right. I don't think it is a filler word, but anyhow, that is what is the intent. So it is perfectly okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I wanted to show you. Share my. Can I? Are you sharing your screen?
No. So you want to share? You are the co-host, so you can do that one if you want.
Okay. So okay. So I'm not able to share.
It's okay, Professor. If you can explain without the presentation, that is also okay.
Yeah, I mean, so I want to show you the very, very catchy statement.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, somehow I'm not able to do it. Sorry, I'm not able to do it. I don't know.
Means you are not able to share it, or you are not able to find that one?
No. It is there on my desktop, but
okay.
Yeah, I clicked on the share screen, and then and then open participant on share at time. What should I click then?
No, just once you click on the share screen, then select what you wanted to share. If there are multiple windows are open,
share the window. It will show all the windows.
Yeah.
You share,
Otherwise,
select the window.
Yeah. Yeah, it says desktop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Select that option, and so if that is open, it will. That is what it will show.
it's going to go system. I don't know. Okay. No. So the statement was like, Mawa Nate Mate Sarkar, means we are the, it says, yeah. It says, our government in Delhi and Mumbai, we are the government in our village. I mean, this I actually found in this Gadchiroli.
I think you are unmuted again, Professor Bhangya.
No, I was saying, have you heard this statement? Our government in Delhi and Mumbai, but we are the government in our village. That's the statement written on a notice board hanging on the village panchayat office. And then I interacted with the panchayat chief, and they were they actually told me the whole story of their struggles and how they got these forest rights in their village. And this village is paying something about 1 lakh income tax to the government from their forest resources. So what I'm saying is, if you give power to the communities, definitely they will generate a lot of income from the forest resources. Unfortunately, that's not happening. Yeah, that's what I just want to tell you. Yeah.
Okay.
Sanjay ji, we can take next question. I think.
So next question is now from Venkat. Venkat.
Venkat Maharaj is waiting for a
Thank you.
No, so I deliberately keep everybody from the Boston study group.
No. We want to.
Guest
it's not
first
a big deal.
Yeah, that's right.
We want to. So, my question is very simple. Thanks for a very good lecture giving on the history and all that. And unfortunately, even though they constitute 10% of our population across in states like Telangana, I think we're 12%. A lot of people don't know, much about them. That is the sad part. But my question is simple. Well, I mean, Adivasis at their own, at least let's look at Lombardis, right? We know very well in Banjara community in our Telangana region. They are, they have their own traditions, their own way of, celebrating festivals, marriages. But now everything they're doing Hindu way, right? All the marriages, everything, at least the ones which are educated, upward mobility, so they're inviting this Brahman Pujari, Panditji, and, they're praying to their feet and, all this. So what is this going on? Can you throw some light on, which is very sad in my view, okay?
Yeah. Means, Venkat, what is happening is really very sad and unfortunate. But recently I have written a piece to a online journal where I said, historically, Banjaras, Lambadas are not Hindus. I mean, they were nowhere part of the Hindu fold. I mean, they were basically pastoral communities carved out from various other tribal and other social groups. So it's a very mixed community. But once they settle down near village, obviously not in the village, but outside the village, they got in touch with the village society and developed a very intimate relations with the village society. And a lot of caste things are now coming in their village. I think till 90s, I mean, you hardly see these kinds of marriages and movements in this community. Actually, after independence in Telangana, there was kind of cultural movement, upward mobility cultural movement, where these semi-educated guys, even in this present Ravinder Nayak, there was another guy, Tilawat, old group. They campaigned for giving up traditional dress and advocated for Hindu kind of marriages and all that. So there was a kind of movement to come out from the traditional way of life and adapt a village kind of lifestyle and all that. Now it's having serious impact. I mean, so I have done a study on girl child sale among the Lambadas, and we found that now, because of earlier there was no dowry, and now there is a huge dowry transaction is happening in this community. So even a illiterate is demanding. When I studied 1 lakh, 2 lakh, this was way back in 2000, 22 years back. And families, those who felt like this is a huge burden, but they want again male child, that's their aspiration. So till they get a male child, they go on producing children, and then if in between, if girl child born, then they will give up to adoption agencies. So there are serious problems. I mean, it's a Lambada community, and for that matter, most of the nomadic communities are now actually in serious crisis. It's a crisis because they are in the transition mode. So when a community experiencing transition, definitely they'll come all these kinds of things. So once they realize the effects, bad effects of the outside culture, then I think they would think about alternative things. Now you see so many Dalit communities embracing Buddhism and Christianity and various other religious things. So
no, I think you touched upon that's exactly I was going to say in a follow-up. See, Dalits are running away from Hinduism, and more as some of the Adivasis are embracing Hinduism. Right? That's what has been happening. Okay. Thank you for that.
Okay. Thanks, and thanks, Professor. Srikant, you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, am I audible?
Yeah, Srikant, please. Yeah.
So, sir, it's a very interesting questions and the answers from you. So, I think I think Sanjay has asked you the question around how the right-wing forces have been attacking the Adivasis, and it's also like it's very evident that how the cultural assimilation is going through the various ways by this RSS and what RSS and this Hindu forces. It's also like I'm also curious to know how.
Sorry, there is some problem with my connection, I believe.
Hello.
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm repeating. So, like initially, I talked about how I'm adding to the Sanjay's points actually. So, like we have, there's enough recognition that how RSS have been attacking the Adivasis and how it is alienating their from their culture, and it's also like I'm curious to know how a state as a BJP formed government using its power to give this lands to the so-called, like when I use the corporates, it's more so-called Banyas Brahmins who are owning the larger this mining the companies and all. So how they are using legitimately the power to displace the Adivasis and what its socio-cultural consequences. And the second question, like my second question is, hello, sir, I have a follow-up question.
Tell me.
So my question is how education being used as a tool to indoctrinate the ideology. by the state. I'm not just like pointing out the RSS, the
Yeah.
BJP now, but an historical phenomena how it has been.
Yeah,
Because if you
pedagogy as a
see,
whole, yes, yeah.
if you see, there is no inclusion of Adivasi culture, like though like subaltern communities culture and the school curricular and even the university spaces. Like as you were saying that there has to be more inclusion, like representation from these communities in the social science. Though like you will get these students from these community in the university spaces, if your social sciences itself, which never accommodate the certain runs through a certain ideology. So yeah, my question around these things.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So how they're dealing with the question of development and forest and right question. I mean, forest and land question after they win the election. Actually, this Patalgadi movement was against the BJP government in Jharkhand. So BJP government, after they got power, they tried to actually sabotage and weaken and revoke completely this 1908 Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act, which is still in implementation and has a lot of protection for Adivasi land. So they tried to revoke this act, and this Patalgadi actually started against this move. So that is this thing. And now, I mean, everywhere, of course, they are giving these mines to corporates. In Lakshadweep now, serious things are going. I mean, so whole now ecology, everything is bulldozed, and they are just leveling everything. Now the beauty of Lakshadweep, I mean, so if anyone has seen it, now completely gone. So they're doing it very aggressively, but problem is, I mean, they are not realizing. Even if some groups are realizing, then they are organizing in this way, like Patalgadi movement, but using force, they are actually suppressing this movements. So that's one thing. And coming to this education, as you said rightly, I mean, you don't see not only the Adivasis. What is included in our curriculum is basically Brahmanical culture and Brahmanical, particularly in the language textbooks, completely Sanskrit and Brahmanical literature you find. You don't find any related, I mean, Adivasi or Dalit Baujan related aspects in these textbooks. Same thing with the, even social science. So, I mean, so you never see any kind of reference or representation of these communities in our history books or social science books. So, I mean, so these are again political questions, and when these questions will be addressed, we don't know. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, am I the next person to ask questions? Sanjay ji?
Yeah, Satyanath ji, go ahead. I think Sanjay ji has
okay.
some problem.
Yeah,
sorry, I was speaking on muters. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I have two kind of suggestions. One is, I don't know if Professor has listened to his own lectures or presentation. I think he should listen and to it, and then he will know how he is interjecting the word Anoka or Kanoka, and he may not be aware of it. And it may be difficult to get rid of that that habit, but he should be aware. And then if he cannot get rid of it, then he should warn the audience right in the beginning that this word that I sometimes interject doesn't mean anything. It's just a connecting thing, whatever.
Filler word. Okay.
One suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Because
Thank you for
yeah, thank you.
Very confusing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
that is a good suggestion. Thank you very much. So I don't think now we have any more questions. So one
I wanted to say was I would appreciate if I could call him and write to him, because he's in Pennsylvania. So for to learn more about Adivasis and
yes,
their
yes, you're most welcome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Satyanath, I can provide
Okay.
you his details if you want. Okay, great. Thank you. I think I was looking for one more speaker who was having a question, but I think she left. So anyhow, thank you very much. So I think Professor Bhangya, thank you very much for
yeah. Thank you so much. I must thank you.
Yeah, it is really.
So Sanjay ji, is it recorded?
Yeah, it is already
it's on YouTube.
Yeah,
It's on
it is
YouTube
live
too.
streaming on YouTube.
Okay. So can I watch it on YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we will send you the link.
Please.
Hemant already must have put that link one.
Yes,
before we are wrapping up, if anyone who has joined for the first time, we maintain the notification email list so that we can inform them about all such events which is happening in the future. And we are very regular on the Ambedkar lecture series. So please, if you are not given already, provide your email ID and we will include in that particular list. So with that, I definitely would like to thank Professor Bhungya ji for such an enthralling session, and it was very interactive, and especially I was impressed with the way the questions have been handled. And thank you very much, and thanks to all the participants for attending the session and interactive on this one. Who is this?
Sanjay, this is Rajaram speaking. So actually, at beginning I was not there, sorry, but just I did not know. Professor from in Telangana, which district?
Yeah, I'm from Khammam district.
Oh, okay. You know the Bhukya Dillalal.
Bhukya Dillalal?
Yeah.
What is he?
Actually, one of my
classmates.
It's a very
big district, so yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my classmates because that's why Bhukya last name. Then I start.
No, I don't.
Why do your siblings?
Okay.
So that's why one of my friends, he recently retired from the Survey of India, I think. Recently retired. He's also from Khammam.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Rajaramji. I think Professor Bhukya is also on the Facebook and all these. You can definitely interact with him.
And I can share the number, Rajaraman. I can share the number.
Venkat knows him, so perfectly all right. Yeah, Venkat has every details of everyone. He is our encyclopedia.
I'm happy to
detail everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Okay, so let me finish that. Yeah. So I would just like to thank everyone. And please don't forget to join our next ALS lecture on 20th May by Professor Rajesh Sampath from the Brandeis University. And he will be speaking on comparison of racism and casteism in the West and India. Any closing thoughts, Professor Bhangya, before we close?
Yeah, I mean, I must thank you, Boston Group and Global NRI Group for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you. And the other request is keep including Adivasi guys in your lecture series, so knowledge of Adivasi is disseminated in a proper way. Yeah.
No, we are going to make very concentrated efforts on that one, Professor Bhangya. We wanted to get as many speakers on this particular subject. If you were not aware, our chief guest for Dr. Ambedkar Jayanti was from tribal area.
Yeah.
Dayamani Didi. Yeah, she was wonderful.
She was tribal and she was wonderful. So we are also trying to reach out to as many as possible, and definitely we will reach out to you to get the speakers who can speak on this particular subject.
Yes.
So with that, thank you very much, and have a wonderful good night.